artlist.io.
Gonna give them what they came for. We gonna take it up from last year. Shoot them a shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stay down, never switch up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down. Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down.
Music licensing reimagined.
Watch the game change, yeah.
artlist.io.
Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. I do not gamble, but bet on me. Tell them that's life, yeah, it's still life. I'm taking a shot for my enemies. I can't waste no more time on my energy. I know they know I got it on lock. Go against me, that's a long shot.
Music licensing reimagined.
Who do you feel when they make you the monster? I am not scared of none of you imposters. Taking the lead now while they watching. Think you should leave now while the options. Taking no else, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. We're running the game now. Foot on the gas, can slow down. No, my team, we holding it down. We know we running it now. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change.
artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. What a Sunday, everybody. What a Sunday. Welcome in Sports Chat, Mr. 33. I am he, Mr. 33. But ladies and gentlemen, what a Sunday night performance. What a day for football. What a day for sports in general. As I'm speaking to y'all right now, I'm watching the wnba and the unanimous MVP. She's trying to pull out all stops as they're up by 3 points, 68-65 in the last 5 minutes of the game. But before all of that, has anybody been watching the game? Did anybody watch the games today? Did anybody see what I was seeing? Tremendous, fourth quarter displays, fourth quarter finishes. I know last week was That's Why You Play the Game. Maybe I should have named this one, Don't Call It a Comeback, right? It was a lot of good fourth quarter finishes that you didn't expect. There's still some teams that's still perfect after this week. There's some teams that was on cardiac arrest as they was losing leads. Some teams, one team almost lost a lead, and it's a little bit of controversy this week, right? So let me just start off with the 4:00 game of the day. The Baltimore Ravens versus the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Baltimore Ravens were up heavily in the fourth quarter, 28-6, around the 9-minute mark, 8.5-minute mark, right? Baltimore, the only team I ever seen that get outscored in the fourth quarter, 19-0, and still win. But they held on to the lead at the end of the day. They won the game 28-25. Lamar Jackson had an okay day passing, but this was more clearly about the rushing yards, right? As Lamar Jackson was 12 or 15 for 182 yards, one touchdown. But Derrick Henry, he did what he do best. 25 rushes, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson followed him with 87 rushing yards. So together they had 238 yards. The team ran for 274 yards total. And they barely won the game by 3 points. Dallas had a tremendous comeback. Shout out. Listen, I'm going to say this one time. I know Dak Prescott is under scrutiny, but I'm going to say this. You cannot blame this on Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, he continued to throw the ball. This is not on Dak Prescott. He didn't have any interceptions. He didn't fumble the ball this week. This is not on Dak Prescott. Even though he had thrown too much, 28 for 51, 370 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he had to because there's no rushing attack with these guys. The leading rusher was Dowdle with 32 yards on 8 carries because they was behind most of the game. See, it's a different thing when you trailing. When you trailing, you ain't got nothing to do but throw the ball. But there was no real pressure on Lamar Jackson because they ran the ball down their throat. I think Dallas only had 60 yards rushing, 39, 50, 51, excuse me. They had 51 yards rushing. CeeDee Lamb was missing in action. He dropping balls. He turning the ball over, losing fumbles, all of these things. But they can't blame this on Dak Prescott. This is totally defensive oriented. Like I said, they ran for 274 yards and threw for 182. That's you can't expect your team to hold it down when somebody's running the ball down your throat, right? So with this win, Baltimore get their first win of the season, which is unbelievable to say that, and Dallas falls to 1-2, right? But this is not on Dak. They have to address the defense in Dallas. They also have to address the defense in Baltimore because who gives up 19 points and survives, right? If they didn't run the clock out, they would have been in trouble. But both of these teams have to address their defenses. Derrick Henry saved them. Lamar Jackson saved them in the final few minutes, getting the first downs when they needed to. Both running and passing, of course, but they saved them, right? So that's one game, right? Now, the other game, the upset game for me at the 4 o'clock game was the 49ers versus the Rams, right? So the 49ers, they was up 24, what was it, 24-14? Yeah, I think it was 24-13. 24-13, right? In the fourth quarter. They got outscored 13-0 in the final 6 minutes, right? I've never seen this type of situation before. For you to give up all of these points and things like that, I've never seen that before. It's amazing, right? And it was strictly, it's not, when you hear the numbers, you're like, well, how is that possible? Right? Because Stafford didn't have a great game, right? He was only 16 for 25 for 221 yards, and they ran the ball very well, but they had 26 carries for 98 yards. But when you hear the 49ers stat, right? Brock Purdy, 22 of 30, 292 yards, 3 touchdowns. Mason had another great game, 77 yards on 19 carries. Brock Purdy was running like he was crazy, 10 for 41, right? Juwan Jennings had 175 receiving yards on 11 receptions with 3 touchdowns. How do they lose this game? It's amazing how all of these teams with the quote-unquote great defenses is not showing up to secure wins. And it is unbelievable, right? So they did all of that just to blow a 13-point lead in the fourth quarter. I It's sad, but with that the Rams win their first game, the 49ers and the Rams have the same record. I'm pretty sure, I know for certain, I did not predict that these two teams would have the same record at this particular time. The 49ers are 1-2, and there's a team above them with a 3-0 record. We'll discuss them. But not really. We're not going to discuss the Seahawks because they played the Dolphins and they destroyed the Dolphins 24-3. Geno Smith had a good day. DJ Metcalf had another 100-yard reception day. But there's no, we're talking about Miami. There's no quarterback there. So the Eagles, the Seahawks did what they had to do. They took care of business over there. But for the 49ers to blow a 13-point lead, I don't understand it. They're going to have to address some things. This is not the offense's fault. Like I said, 292 for Purdy, even though he took a few sacks. It was really, he actually threw for more than that, but the sacks took it back a little bit. And, those are the things that, like I said, last week was rushing the ball. We was talking about running the ball more than passing. Now we're talking about the defenses as they're giving away leads and things like that, right? So now we're going to talk about the 2-0 teams that came. There was two 2-0 games, right? One was between Pittsburgh and I almost said the San Diego Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers, and the other one, for me, is a shocker. But the other team was the Minnesota Vikings and the Houston Texans. We're going to have to ask this question now, ladies and gentlemen. As the Vikings won easily, 34-7. Now, when I read these stats, right, I want to ask the question. 17 of 28 for 181 yards, but 4 touchdowns. So here's the question. The question is this a resurgence for Sam Darnold? Is this what the world been waiting for? Because he's playing outstanding football. He's not turning the ball over. He's doing everything that he was not doing with his previous teams, more than likely the Jets. Even though I'm a Jets fan, I'm going to have to say this. I don't think the Jets know what they're doing when it comes to quarterbacks. Right? We got Aaron Rodgers this year. They got Aaron Rodgers, right? The last great quarterback that they had was Brett Favre, even though they didn't make the playoffs that year. But ever since then, you had Sanchez, Geno Smith, who's playing great football. Like I just said, he's leading his team 3-0. Fitzpatrick, and then Zach Wilson, I think he's currently out the league right now. So, but real is good evening. So it's like a resurgence for him because he's playing great football. I think he has. I don't think he has about 2 turnovers the whole season, but he's playing great football. So the question is, are we going to consider him to be the comeback player of the year, even though it's only after 3 weeks, right? Because there's no way in the world that you could look this good, and this is his first year there. So is it the coaching or is it him himself, right? Those are the questions that we have to ask. Because he lead this team to 3-0, and I'm pretty sure, just like me, nobody gave the Vikings a shot of winning this division. More than likely, they probably was the third team in the division that a lot of people picked their preseason picks for the division, because we all said that the Packers was going to do great and the Lions are going to do great. So a lot of us more unlikely presumed that the Bears was going to struggle and the Vikings were going to be sub 500. but they're already 3-0. It's still early in the season, but he's playing great football. Now on the other side, the Texans lost their first game. C.J. Stroud had a off game, 20 of 31, 215 yards, but he was forcing a lot of the passes because his team was down early. So this is a one-off for me. Stephon Diggs had a big day, but a lot of these are like what we call empty calories because these don't even count. That's the first the battle for 2-0, but Minnesota goes to 3-0, and like I told y'all, their next game is next Sunday and across the pond, and they play the New York Jets. Hopefully, my Jets could keep up with them, but that's another story. That's a pick 'em that I'll pick about Thursday. The second one was the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Los Angeles Chargers. Pittsburgh won this game 20-10. But here's the shocker. This was not game management Justin Fields today. Justin Fields threw 25 for 32 for 245 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But he also, he was distributing the ball to people. Charles Austin III had a nice catch and run for four receptions, 95 yards. The big touchdown to seal the game towards the end of the game. But this was not game like they let Justin Fields throw the ball 32 times. I mean, they had a good rushing attack. They had about 115 total rushing yards. But this was about Justin Fields today. Justin Fields played very good football for the first time this season. I guess they took the reins off him. But 240 for 32 passing attempts for Justin Fields I'm pretty sure, I don't think he had over 20 passing attempts or 30 passing attempts in the first 2 games. So now they let him throw for 32 times, and he only had 7 incompletions. Well, yeah, 7, but one of them was an interception. But he played a very good game. Now for the Chargers, Justin Herbert got hurt. That's his problem. He's always going to get hurt, but he got hurt in the third quarter. He was 12 for 18 for 125 yards. But that wasn't enough because they was already trailing. So with that being said, they was down the entire game. But this is about Justin Fields and the defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had a great game. They're 3-0. And that's something, like I said about the Vikings. Nobody had picked them to be at this record at this time. There was already controversy who's going to be the starting quarterback. Unfortunately for Russell Wilson, he got hurt. I don't think he can give this job up. I don't think Justin Fields could lose his job. They're rolling right now. They're 3-0. If you put Russell Wilson back in there, if he's healthy, that could disturb the team. So I don't think he should be rewarded for nothing because this young man, Justin Fields, is playing great ball. And so with that being said, it's like, hey, I know the old ritual is you can't lose your position because of an injury. Man, forget that. When they rolling, they rolling. So like I said, they ain't lose. The defense is playing great football. Like, nah, he can't lose this spot. But, shout out to them. But the rest of the scores around the league, we spoke about the Cowboys. The Carolina Panthers got their first win today. They beat the Raiders 36-22. They benched Bryce Young for Andy Dalton. He came out slinging. He had 315 passing yards. He totally outplayed the Raiders. I said the Seahawks defeated the Dolphins 24-3. The Colts get their first win today, 21-16 over the Chicago Bears. In this game, Caleb Williams threw for his first touchdown today in the NFL, and he was 33 of 52 for 363 yards, but it wasn't enough, right? But congratulations to him on his first touchdown pass, I think. And there was a rookie that Odunze caught his first touchdown pass. So there was a lot of firsts in this game for the Bears, but it wasn't a victorious day for the Bears as they lost 21-16 to the Colts. Anthony Richardson had a subpar game again. I don't know what's going on with him. I really like this kid. He was 10 of 20 for 167 yards and 2 interceptions. So I don't know what's going on with Anthony Richardson, but they pulled out the win today. Also, today, the New York Giants got on the scoreboard. I don't know how they did this, but the Giants beat the Cleveland Browns 21-15. I'm highlighting this game only because of Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors made some outstanding catches today. He had 78 receiving yards with 8 receptions. But those 2 touchdown catches was wonderful. Commander, what up, 9? And it was unbelievable. He had an outstanding game. I mean, if you want to say Danny Dimes, that's what they call him in New York. But Daniel Jones, he had an okay game, 24-34, 236 yards, 2 touchdowns. But because the Browns lost, that's another reason why I wanted to look at this, because this was not his fault. This was not Deshaun Watson's fault. Even though he was 21 of 37, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, anything like that, right? But there was a lot of drop passes in this game. It was like Charles Tillman. He dropped a very important pass at the end of the game to keep the drive going for them on the 4th down and stop their momentum. But Deshaun Watson had a pretty good game. But this is more about the drops and the play calling for the Browns. They was making some horrible play calls, stopping the momentum of Deshaun Watson, and they paid for it by losing to the woeful Giants. I don't care. I know people want to say, well, Daniel Jones outplayed Deshaun Watson, but this is not on Deshaun Watson, in my opinion. There was a lot of passes that it was dropped. And like I said, when you slow down a quarterback's confidence, and he's going to not pull the trigger on certain things. And I've seen why today. He had about 4 drop passes at key points of the game to keep them going. So this one is not on Deshaun Watson. I know he's going through personal and legal situations, but this game is not on him at all. Like I said, he had a good game as far as I was concerned with the 2 touchdown passes and things like that. Now the Lions game was a very controversial one. I know my 33 brother's not here, but they cheated. I'm gonna say that the Lions defeated the Cardinals 20-13, but an odd thing occurred, right? With 2 minutes, with a little bit over 2 minutes to go in the first half, the Lions snapped the ball. The Lions threw an interception. They ran it back, but they took the touchdown away, talking about it was a 2-minute warning, where it clearly wasn't a 2-minute warning. That's probably why the word ain't here, because he know I'm gonna get him, right? So he know they lost. I think he believed they lost. That's why he ain't here. But that game was a very odd game. No good quarterback play from Jared Goff. 18-23, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick. Kyler Murray wasn't what he did with the Rams. 21 of 34 for 207 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Marvin Harrison caught his 3rd touchdown of the season But other than that, this game was not really worth talking about because of that. But I'm liking the receiver play that's coming from the rookies, like I just said, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors. They playing some outstanding football, right? They're leading their teams in receptions and yards and touchdowns. But on these two teams, that's not really hard to believe because they're expected to. They play with two different quarterbacks, two different systems, and not a lot of firepower around them. So you expect them to do great things. But it's difficult when you got people draped all over you, got double coverages and things like that. So that's understandable. But one of the 2-0 teams that lost today was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They was at home against the Denver Broncos, and to my surprise, they lost to the Broncos. Congratulations to Bo Nix. He won his first NFL game. He was 25 or 36, 216 yards. No touchdown passes, no interceptions, but he ran one in for a touchdown. They just systematically punished the Buccaneers as Baker Mayfield had a very subpar game, 25 or 33 for 163 yards, one touchdown, one pick. And this was all about time of possession. Time of possession was not, in Denver's favor. Their rushing game was subpar, so he couldn't play action pass. Baker Mayfield, that's what he do best. He likes to play action pass, but they only had 91 rushing yards, and they was already behind. They was already behind the majority of the game. So, don't come in here and try to come from the Raptors and all that. Nah, what up though? Nah, they cheated. You know what happened. I ain't even going for that one. Shout out to the word of his victorious Lions today. But, it was like the other game I wanted to talk about, though, was the Philadelphia Eagles and the New Orleans Saints, right? This was a great game. Even though the score don't show that it was a great game, but it was a great game, right? The Eagles was trailing throughout the entire game, but in the fourth quarter, they scored 15 points. And, in the last few minutes, they took the lead on a touchdown by Saquon Barkley. Now, Saquon Barkley had 17 rushes for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's 5 touchdowns for Saquon in 3 weeks. That's a great thing. Okay, you don't know what I speak of. Okay, cool. Jalen Hurts had an okay game. 29 or 38 for 311 yards, 1 interception. But Dallas Goedert had a humongous game. He had 10 receptions for 170 yards. He's their tight end. DeMonte Smith went down. So it was just Dallas Goedert and whoever else was out there, right? But this was a very defensive-minded game as Derek Carr did not show up for the first time this season. He was 14 of 25, 142 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The running game, it was good. They had a decent running game. Kamara had 87 yards on 26 carry. But the defense showed up for Philadelphia. They held this high-powered offense at bay, well, for at least the first 2 weeks, and they came out with a victory. Now they're on top of the division for now at 2-1, and the Saints lost their first game. Now they're 2-1. So, it was a very hard-hitting game, a very defensive-minded game. But in the game of football, if you can get games coming down to the last quarter, in the last few minutes, it's a great thing. Now, I saw another thing that's controversial, right? Now, I don't want to put this out there, but I'm going to go back to the Giants game, right? So the Giants was up 21-15, and they had a play where at the end of the game, Devin Singletary broke it free and he was heading for the touchdown. He stopped a yard short and didn't score. Now, the only problem with that is, for me, is that looked a little shady because gambling is legal in America now. So now a lot of people gonna look at that like that don't look right. Did he stop that so he can keep it under? Because the under was in trouble if he scores. You understand? Like, that's gonna be a controversial thing. I believe the league will look at it just for that reason alone. Uh, it was just a suspect move to me. I'm like, you could have scored. Now, who gives up touchdowns just to keep the clock running? I have barely seen that. Like, when I say he was by himself, there was no one near him. There was no one at least 5 yards near the man. And I know for most professionals, they like to keep their stats up. So that looked a little suspicious to me. But hey, I may not know what I'm talking about. I just might be speculating. But like I said, there was a lot of good games today. And tomorrow there's 2 Monday night games. One is the Jaguars and the Bills. As the Bills is 2-0, they'll be looking to be another team to go 3-0 by the end of the week. And tomorrow is the Commanders, not you, Commander. Commanders and Bengals. But hey, Commander, didn't you pick some good? You picked some good games. You said the 49er Rams game was going to be good, and that's one of the games I spoke about earlier. As the 49ers blew a 13-point lead in the fourth quarter, and you said Pittsburgh was going to win, even because I picked the Chargers. So shout out to Commander. You've been on a roll, Commander, even though you cheated with BDB's questionnaire, but you've been on a roll with this one. You 2-0 in my book. Shoot, I might have to call on you. I might have to put a parlay in. But she picked the Steelers to win. They won. And she said, Gary, I think the Rams and 49er game was going to be a good game. That was a great game. Let me tell y'all how crazy it was, right? So at the 7 o'clock hour, right, I was putting everything together to put on the community wall. And I was like, okay, all of these games is over, right? The Rams were down heavily. The 49ers, the Cowboys were down heavily. So I'm putting it in there. I'm typing it up. I said, let me stop real quick because I looked at the TV. I see these people coming back. See the Cowboys coming back with 19 straight points in the fourth quarter. I'm like, I can't put this up there yet. I took a screenshot of what I was going to post, but I can't show it right now because it's not on my laptop. It's on my phone. But I had everybody lined up. I had the 49ers winning the game. I had to erase that because they lost the game. But it was a lot of good games today in the NFL for the most part, except for, the Packers won 30-14 as they improved to 2-1. This Will Levin's guy, he gotta be benched. He's not doing nothing well. He got 8 turnovers in 3 games. He gotta go. But Malik Willis, he used to play for the Titans. He came out with 202 passing yards, but 73 rushing yards. So he tried to do everything by himself. So the Packers go to 2-1. They're tied with the Lions for first place right now. And like I said, that's pretty much it as far as those scores. Oh, I forgot. In the 8 o'clock game, the Kansas City Chiefs pulled out a win. They pulled out the win 22-17. Mahomes was 26-39, 217 yards, a touchdown, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Rice had over 100 yards receiving. The question with the Chiefs is where's Kelsey at? Kelsey's getting very few looks at the ball. He only had 4 receptions for 30 yards. But I guess that's not going to mean nothing because they keep on winning. Whether Kelsey's doing what he got to do, Mahomes ain't throwing for 300 yards. These guys just find ways to win, and I don't think there was no controversy in this game besides the fourth down play. Okay, you did say it was going to be a great game. You right, Commander, and you should. Like I said, if anybody listening, y'all better. Commander might be a psychic. She might be a psychic. Y'all better get in contact with her to pick some of y'all tickets. Because she did call these two games. The Steelers she said the Steelers gonna win. I picked the Chargers. And she said the 49er game was gonna be great. And it was outstanding. It was a shocker, trust me. But yeah, Mahomes only threw for 217 yards. But they still won in the game. Kirk Cousins, he's still trying to get him. So he's trying to find his way back. This Achilles injury, is not. It's still in his mind. It's still in his mental state because he was 20 of 29 for 230 yards, but he's not moving the way. If you look at him and Aaron Rodgers, right? And Aaron Rodgers got injured in the first part of the season, the first game last year, right? Like you see how Aaron Rodgers is moving now. The first two games, he was moving very timid, like Kirk Cousins still is, right? So I understand. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She might well put her picks up there and just say what it is, right? Because I mean, I did pretty good this week. Last week, I bombed. There was so many games that I lost. I lost in the first 1:00 games. I was under 500 then, and I never regained myself. But if you really look at how Kirk Cousins is moving in the pocket, you can see that he's very scared. He's not mentally ready to play because of that Achilles injury. That's also a mental injury as well because you're so afraid to plant and turn and twist and do all of those things. And when you're a quarterback, you got to plant your foot and throw off the foot. And he can't do none of that because he's still worried about his Achilles, you know? So he's going to have to get over this He's going to have to get over the injury itself and then go ahead and do what he needs to do. But right now, it's all a mental thing because they have a good team. And as long as he's playing like this, they can't win. Like they should have won this game. They was that competitive. The defense played outstanding for them. They held Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs to 22 points. You could have scored 24. But like I said, in the 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, it was 4th and goal. They didn't want to kick the field goal. They went for it. They didn't make it. And Kansas City held on to the win. They're 3-0. Right? So you still got the Vikings, you still got the Chiefs, you still got the Steelers at 3-0. There's somebody else at 3-0, and the Seattle Seahawks is at 3-0. Now, like I said, tomorrow if Buffalo wins, they'll be 3-0. And then tomorrow night I will run down what the schedule is going to be next week. We're going to ask Commander to put her picks in so that way we can see if she's rocking and rolling like that. But like I said, she got the two picks she picked last week. She did well with it. What up, BDB? What up, 9? Right? So we're going to tell Commander go ahead and put her picks in next week. We're going to give her the whole schedule. So that way she can pick what she needs to pick. Now, so like I said, that's pretty much the football end of the situation, right? I just finished watching the WNBA playoffs. How you feeling? How you living? And first of all, let's do this right. It was a fluke. I can't with you, Commander. But let's go into the WNBA. First of all, we're going to congratulate A'ja Wilson. A'ja Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces became the second unanimous MVP winner in the WNBA season. Only Cynthia Cooper from 1997. That's almost 30 years. That means for almost 30 years, there's have not been no one that dominant to come on the scene and destroy and just take the league over. Now, as we all know, there was a talk of Caitlin Clark. She finished fourth in the MVP voting. That was very good for her as a rookie. But there was a lot of other people that got votes. You had Natasha Collier from the Minnesota Lynx and Breanna Stewart. They finished 2 and 3. And the funny part is those two, Collier and Breanna Stewart, have the league's best record for their respective teams. They're both 31 and 9. So congratulations to Aja Wilson. And then after she received her award, she rewarded the home crowd by pulling off a victory against the Seattle Storm. In the first half, she was very timid. She only had 4 points, but I think she scored in the second half. She scored about 22 points or something like that. She ended the game with 26 points. Like, what more could you ask from a dominant player? When push came to shove, they was going back and forth, but she commanded the ball. She got the ball and she put that ball in the bucket in the second half. So congratulations to her, and congratulations to the Aces as they take a 1-0 lead on in their round against the Storm. The New York Liberty, the number 1 seed, they take a 1-0 lead as they beat the Atlanta Dream 83-69. You know, it was a total team game as Tina Charles led them the Dream with 24 points, but for the Liberty, it was Breanna Stewart with 20, Lynn Fitchback with 21. They led them as Sabrina Ionescu had 17. It was a total team game, and the defense showed up for the Liberty. So that's why, you know, the game that the score wasn't as close as the score indicates, as the Dream was trailing the entire time. So the Dream are down 0-1 to the number 1 ranked New York Liberty. Right? The second seed, Minnesota Lynx, that was a crazy game. When I tell you that was a crazy game, the Minnesota Lynx had a 25-point lead in the middle of the third quarter. The Phoenix Mercury came back and took the lead by the middle of the fourth quarter. But, you know, Minnesota held on and scored, you know, a few buckets and allowed them to win 102-95 against the Mercury. And now the Mercury is down 0-1 to the Lynx. But it was an outstanding game. Like, I think these games were so good that I think a lot of people need to tune into them a little bit more. You know, we understand they don't do what the fellas do. They don't slam. They don't do none of that. But the competition and the hard work and the effort is there. So I can understand why people don't watch it. But I also understand why it is watchable. The competitiveness, the hard work, the effort is there. So I can understand that. I didn't forget about Caitlin Clark. She made the playoffs too, right? So Caitlin Clark in her first game in the WNBA playoffs, her team lost 93-69. Caitlin Clark she only had 11 points, 8 rebounds. She was 2 for 9. So it's, you know, this is not the bad mouth or anything, but this is what a lot of people was talking about when, you know, they were saying she may not be ready because the competitiveness in the postseason You could play a lot of poor teams in the regular season, but when the playoff time, that's when the lights is on you the brightest. And in her very first game, she had a very bad game. So we'll see if she come back out of that. Uh, if she comes back from that, then we can figure that out. But you know, the Connecticut Suns is a very athletic team, and I already knew that she was going to struggle with that. But there's a lot of people that predicted that she can beat the Fever. I just don't, because, like I said, I watch them and I see how they perform and I see how they play basketball. They have a very deep team, and I just knew they was going to sick everybody on her. So this is not a shock for me, but we have to wait for game 2 and see, when that is. Well, how she recovers from game 2. How she recovers from game 1 to game 2. Yeah, that's pretty much it as far as the WNBA, because it's only 8 teams, so that means 4 games are being played. So, we would have to wait and see how this goes. I think the Fever play again on Wednesday, and we'll see what happens. It's a 3-game. It's a best out of 3, so it's going to be elimination games for the Seattle Storm, the Fever, the Atlanta Dreams, and the Phoenix Mercury. So we'll see what happens when it comes down to their next game. But it's a must win for those four teams, because if they don't win, they'll be in the second round, the semifinals, and it's time to win or go home for those 4 teams. As the higher ranked teams, the 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, and the 4 seed, they all won. It's hard to believe that Asia Wilson and the back-to-back champions, Las Vegas Aces, are the 4 seed, but they had an up and down season. And the unanimous MVP did all she could, but there's just some teams that were better than her team, and now they're in the 4 seed. But we're going to see if they can do something that it hasn't been done since the Houston Comets. That's when back-to-back championships, 3 times in a row. So we're going to see how that goes for them. And, but there were some good games, it was some good games there, but it was definitely some good games in the NFL today. Now, like I said, tomorrow we'll see who's going to play. Well, we know that we're going to figure out who wins between Cincinnati, and the Commanders, and Buffalo and the Jags. I already picked I already picked Buffalo, and I already picked Cincinnati. But I don't think those games are going to be competitive per se. But when I come back on tomorrow, we'll figure that out. As well as we may talk a little bit about WWE if they're still playing the games, to kill some time to for them to wrap up. I don't know if my 33 brothers going live today. I gotta check. I think he is. It's like, I don't know. Oh no, is he live now? He went live already? Okay. Oh, he get ready to go live. Oh, okay. But it was just an exciting day as far as sports in a whole, right? I know people don't watch baseball, but these wild card games are coming down as the last week of the Major League season is getting ready to start tomorrow. Then we can find out who's going to play who and when and where. My Metropolitans are My Metropolitans are still in it. They're fighting for a wild card spot. They're in the second wild card spot with 6 games to play. They're 5 games back. They won't win the division because I think the Philadelphia Phillies will win and clinch the division sometime before Wednesday. I'm gonna say Wednesday, but if they could hold the Atlanta Braves off, I'll be content. Well, if the Atlanta Braves make it, that's cool. I just don't want them to. I don't want them to look at it crazy. You know, those are my 2 hometowns, New York and Georgia. So I don't want. We don't like them anyway, but we don't like Philly at all. We can't stand Philly. You know, I used to work for the Mets, so it's like, wow, we don't like those dudes at all. But that's the ML, that's the National League side, the American League side. They got a good wild card race as well. This is what sports is about, right? Sports can bring us together, but it also could bring a whole bunch of people together, right? I believe that, right? So I'm gonna continue to do what I do. I'm gonna continue to have this channel going. I'm still gonna continue to have the updates, the reviews, and the previews. Well, I don't do the previews. I do the previews. Let me stop lying. The previews of the national, the NFL. I'm still debating to do basketball. That's gonna be one. That's gonna be an everyday thing. So it may take away from the normal stuff that I do, but it's always at night anyway, because for the most part, there's still games going. The only other thing I can think about is doing a review the next day. I'm a little iffy about that. I don't think that'll be received the way. I just don't feel it, right? I just think that people like to talk about those events while they're going or freshly ending, just like the boxing match. I did the Dubois. Oh God, what's his man's name? I forgot his name that quick. The AJ and Dubois fight yesterday, a few hours after, like it was fresh. You saying why not do it the next day? I just think that people won't want to talk about it the next day. If it's fresh on their mind, they'll have more of a conversation about it, right? It's okay if I do it the next day, but I would rather everybody come in and collaborate, talk about certain things the next day. You see what I mean? But yeah. But as these channels grow, if that's what the people will decide to do, we can do that too. I know it's my channel, but it's for everybody, right? Since I'm the one that suggested to do the sports channel, I'm willing to give it to the people at the same time. And if that's what they want to do, we'll do that. If that's not what they want to do, we could do it the way it's doing. But the NBA is a little different because that's an everyday event. That's an everyday event from the end of October all the way to like June. You know what I mean? And that's 82 games, and that's the playoffs, the postseason. If the people want to do it, we can do it. I don't have a problem doing that. But it's going to be up to the people because you got to give out the stats, and things like that. You're going to talk about this player, that player, that player. Sometimes there may be 10 games in one day. It may be 2 games the next day, But those are different stats, and those are more than just like 1 game or 3 games a week. Those are like 4 or 5 days a week. It may be 7 days a week because there's going to be different teams playing different days, But if that's what you guys want to do, I have no problem doing that. Just understand, like the West Coast teams, they play a little later, so if we're gonna do that, we're gonna highlight the East Coast game while they're still playing the West Coast game. Some of those games don't end till like 1 o'clock. And I'm not I'm not saying I won't do it, but if that's what they want to do, that's what they do. But also, my people's, you know, I gotta support my people's too. But if my subscribers and things like that want to have a conversation, I gotta be with the subscribers. You know what I mean? And it's not a conflict, but it's something to think about. Like I said, there's a lot of games that happen there, and some people might get tired of the updates or whatever. But whatever the people want, I'm willing to do it. And that's the thing that we can always, they can hit the community wall. They can, make the suggestions, whatever they suggest, we could put it into motion. So we can do that and then go forward from there. But but to sum up today's day, it was some great games in the NFL, some shockers, some last minute finishes, some controversial plays in the NFL. Once again, congratulations to A'ja Wilson. She showed up with the unanimous MVP and still led her team to a victory in the same day. All of the higher seeds won in the WNBA. So the lower seeds are on elimination watch in the next couple of days, Tuesday, Wednesday. More than likely, I'll have that information for you guys tomorrow. We got 2 Monday night games tomorrow. And we may have a discussion about if the Buffalo Bills are 3-0. If there's a major topic that comes about, we can have it tomorrow as well. Because like I said, there's only 2 games. Normally it's 1, but the NFL gave us 2 games tomorrow, and we'll have that discussion tomorrow. But in the meantime, I appreciate everybody for stopping by. I appreciate, Commander was 2-0. Let me give my props to Commander. She said it was a fluke. Sometimes it's the quietest people that you got to watch because they be so humble that they don't want to tell the truth. But Commander had an outstanding picks last week, and they came to be correct. So she's 2-0 in her own pickings. So I'm gonna ask her. I'll probably ask her tomorrow what game she want to pick, and she'll type it in, and we'll keep up her tabs. Y'all can look at my community wall and tell me what I did. So, but in the meantime, in between time, within the next 23 hours, I'll be back to have a conversation about those 2 NFL games and give y'all the WNBA schedule for the next games 2, because there's no games tomorrow as far as I know. But we'll have that conversation, and if anything happens in between then, we can have that conversation tomorrow night. So I'll see you guys in 23 hours. With that being said, I appreciate y'all, and I'm out.